Hello, gorgeous, and welcome to the Women on Top podcast. I'm your host, Valerie Lynn, and with over 15 years of business experience, I became truly passionate about finding ways to support and hear from way more women. And what we know to be true is that women thrive when they are in their favorite position, on top. On top in business, in relationships, in personal growth, and on top in being real and authentic to who the hell they are. So I invite you to sit back and enjoy the Women on Top podcast. On today's episode of the Women on Top, I sat down in person with Laur Elle, a rising indie pop powerhouse whose songs feel like late night drives and quiet Sunday mornings all at one time. Her airy vocals really just pull you in. Her lyrics feel like pages straight out of her journal, and the production just brings it all together in a perfect way. I first discovered her on TikTok through her song July and immediately had it on repeat, which opened the door to so much more of her music that I couldn't stop playing. And beyond her own success, she's collaborated with other artists such as Bill Murray, Abby Carter, and plenty more, which is just proof that she is a woman on the rise. I have this sneaky suspicion that we are going to be seeing a lot more of Laur Elle. So sit back and enjoy our conversation. Welcome to the Women on Top, Laur Elle. I am so excited to have you. I have been looking forward to meeting you in person. Thank you for coming to the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I have done very few podcasts, so I'm so excited to be here. I love to talk.
Yeah, I can't wait to tell your story and to have you tell your story. And so I really want to start with where it all began. And I know that you were a competitive gymnast and you're from Canada. And then you made the big move and came down to LA to pursue music. And that's a big shift. So I want to know all of the detail behind that journey. And then I also want to know, was there ever a moment in there where you were like, what the hell am I even doing?
Oh my gosh, so many moments. Okay, so back to the beginning, I guess, because there's a lot to tell. I'll try and speed run this. But
you're good.
So I was a gymnast, and that was really intense and super competitive and crazy, and that was my whole entire childhood until I was 16. And I competed nationally and internationally, and the goal was like the Olympics and then like a full ride scholarship, and like that was the dream from the time I can ever remember.
Wow.
So it was a bunch of injuries, which led to this like decision of maybe this isn't right anymore, and like a big shoulder one took me out, and that was really difficult. And I think it was the first time in my life that my identity was questioned, right? It was like, who am I without this now? Which led to the exploration to get to where I'm at this moment, right? I got into track and into dance, and then I went to university, and I was like, maybe I'll be a teacher. And honestly, I didn't find music until later. Like, I was secretly writing poems that no one will ever see the light of day of, right? In my room, in my dorm, and in the back of the classroom, honestly, my very last year. And it wasn't until a friend of mine showed me some guitar chords, and I was like, wait, like maybe I could write songs, you know? Maybe I could like turn my poems into songs, like as this like fun little thing that I do, you know? And honestly, I just fell in love with that and continued on, and I was like, maybe I meet some more people in the city who are into music. Like, this is really fun, you know? But it felt like such a different world to me. I didn't grow up with music, you know? I didn't have a musical family. It felt so foreign to me. So it was also really exciting and intriguing. And I started writing songs, and honestly, it snowballed. Not that there weren't like a million times where I was like, truly, what the heck am I doing? You know what I mean? But there were enough moments along the way where I was like, okay, like this is what I wanted, and it appeared, you know? Yeah. This is what I wanted, and now I'm like having this like little moment. And so, yeah, it's been an insane journey so far, but I'm grateful to be in this position.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that your journey took you here, and it was like twists and turns, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it's never this linear path that we think it is. When we're growing up, we're like, okay, I'm going to do this and go A, B, C, D. And it's never like that.
Not at all. No.
Do you ever have moments of like grief for the identity that you had being a gymnast? Like, is that ever woven throughout your songs? You know, do we hear that in your...
I think I'm always processing. I'm like such a deep feeler and deep thinker. And I mean, like us artists and creatives, like we tend to be, you know? So I think I'll forever be grieving a former version of myself and reinventing and exploring a new version. And so I think that with my music, a lot of it is introspective and it's like exploring identity and rebirth and new and who am I now, you know? So I think a part of that is always interwoven into it. And there's one song in particular, which
one is it? We have to know.
Daughter, which I think was a lot about that. That song was very reflective of a particular time in my life, who I was, like love, loss, and it was all kind of tied into like this identity of like growing up and being the coach's daughter. So yeah,
I was gonna say I love that song.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that does feel like a song that is definitely tied to a relationship.
It is for sure. Yeah, it is. I would say it's funny because when I was writing it, I was thinking about multiple relationships. It wasn't necessarily one. It was the feeling of the person I thought I was supposed to be in this time and in this city, and there were a few relationships that were really monumental for that. So yeah.
What was the person you thought you were supposed to be?
That's such a good question. I think I grew up in a place called Medicine Hat. Okay. It's a city, but it kind of had this small city, big town energy.
Yeah.
And the closest big city is an hour and a half away. It almost felt like the snow globe in the middle of nowhere, right? And I think that I always felt like I didn't belong there, that I was made for more. But I had it in my head at the time that maybe I was reaching for something that didn't exist. You know, the grass is always greener. Like, why do you feel this need that there's something else, you know, that you're supposed to be doing? And so I think that I was really trying to settle into this space with everybody else. This, like, get a job, get married, have children. This city is enough. Like, there's so much going on here, right? You know, and just enjoy it. And I couldn't. I always had this feeling like I was like, I have to go. And honestly, even when I was 20 years old, I was dating this guy at the time, and bless his heart, I was like, I want to go to California, and he was like, okay, like we can go there someday. I was like, no, I want to drive. I want to drive to California. So we took his truck and drove all the way down the coast from Medicine Hat all the way down to San Diego.
Wow.
And we like camped. And I had this feeling the whole entire time where I was like, I'm supposed to be here. And this was before music. This was before I'd started music.
That's amazing.
And I was like, I'm supposed to be here. I just feel alive here.
Yeah.
I feel, So I think that I've always had that feeling. And I have definitely woven that into my music for sure.
Yeah. You know, it was reminding me, I really like one of your songs called Wallflower.
Oh, thank you.
And I relate to it. Yeah. And I'm like, the lyrics there remind me of what you were just saying.
Yeah.
Is that song written from that time or?
It definitely was. Okay. Yeah. That was one of the songs in the very beginning of my like music journey.
Really?
Yeah. So there's a handful of songs that are out there when I was like exploring, and then I decided I wanted to make an EP, right? And it's called The Art of Pretending because I really felt like I was pretending at this time. Like, I was like, can I be an artist? Can I do this? You know?
Right.
And so it was this record where I was exploring and trying things and trying to figure out my sound. And I remember when I wrote this song, I was like, this is something, this is special. This feels special.
Yeah.
And I definitely, it was written in that time, like just reflecting on life and feeling like an outcast, I guess, feeling like I didn't belong in any room, in any space. And so much of that was coming from my own perspective, you know, my own ideas of who I am in this world. And it's so cool to look back on that song and play that song live and feel like a different version of myself than I was when I wrote it. So, yeah.
That's really sacred and special that you can feel that. Mm-hmm. And that comes through in your music too. And I feel like that's why I was so drawn to you. I honestly think I found you on TikTok.
I love that. Okay.
I was like, gosh, I really like the way she sounds. And there was something different about you as far as like I could feel your soul come through the lyrics. And something about it spoke to me in my own journey. And so I love that you're you're writing these raw and real lyrics that also are coming from your poems. And so are you still writing poetry? Or you said some of these poems are never going to make it out into songs. I don't know. I feel like I need to push you a little bit on that. Like
maybe. I would say that I'm not writing as poetry as much as I used to. I've been doing this exercise that's been really fun recently, where in the mornings I'll wake up and I'll put like an instrumental song on and I'll just free write. And sometimes it's journal writing, sometimes it's more poetic. I kind of just like get it all out.
Oh my gosh, I've been doing the artist's way.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Okay, so this was before that. Although I love that book so much, and I'm gonna say that I like have started and stopped and started and stopped that so many times. And every time I sign that little contract, I'm like, this is the one.
This is the time.
This is the time, you know? And it's so funny. You got to give yourself levity. It came before that, but the artist's way is so great.
Yeah.
I love that you're doing that as well.
Yeah. There's something therapeutic, but it's not. I don't write music, okay? So I have to
You're creative writing. You're free writing. Yeah.
So you're still writing poetry to some extent.
To some extent, yes.
And is that that's like the process of you writing your songs? Or talk about the process. Like, what is that like? Where are you getting your inspiration from?
Okay, so it's so interesting because I got into music from the lyric perspective. Like, I started with lyrics first, and then I was like, how do these fit into melodies? And then I think because I had this feeling of being like behind with music, and like when it came to music theory and like how do you even make a song and how does everything come together, I became really obsessed with melody writing. I would like hear songs in the grocery store and like try and predict what the chorus was going to be. Like, I was so weird with it, but I think that's one of those things. It's like, that's how you know that you're meant to do it, because like I wasn't even trying to. I was just like, oh my gosh, I love this. I was being such a little nerd about it. So now I honestly, I love starting with chords and then melody, and I'll kind of feel what the melody feels like. And a lot of times I'll just like start typing the same way that I do, or like writing the same way that I would do in the morning, right? I'm like, what does this melody and this vibe right now make me feel? And it's so cool because it feels like a portal, right? Yeah. It feels like all of a sudden I have this like melodic space to channel an emotion where I wasn't even thinking about it earlier that day, you know? And the same way that like, if you're watching a movie and a song or like a scene really moves you, it like opens up this emotion that you didn't even know was there, right? It's so cool because when I'm creating music, that's what that process feels like.
Yeah. I love that you said it's like a portal.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really true for so many artists who find their thing kind of like you have. Yeah. And it's like, gosh, this is such an opening for my heart to come through.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I don't even know where it comes from. It's just like from I don't know, the ether into my brain onto the page, and I'm like, thank you for this one.
That's got to be an amazing feeling to have it just completely be a download for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you have inspirations, like, you know, people you really have looked up to over the years? Who are some of those people for you as far as musical artists, and even just maybe mentors in general?
Yeah, super good question. I always struggle with this one because I think that growing up outside of music and not really having musical influences, I think that my roots are all over the place. I was such a radio kid. Like my parents played the radio. It was like top 40s and country, right? So I think that a lot of the early inspiration was kind of all over the place. I was grasping at straws from everywhere, you know? I think that later when I really started getting into music, I was so in love with Taylor Swift. Of course.
I was going to say, I sense that there's some influence just a little bit there.
Yeah. I think that she was the first person who was like a strong female singer-songwriter artist out there, like that I remember being like, oh, you can say that, you know, you can do that. I remember like really thinking she was magical growing up. And I'm pretty sure the first song I ever learned how to play on guitar was our song, like from her, I think first record or so. But so she was a really big one. I think in the early years of me making music, Halsey was a big one too. Yeah. Her Badlands record, I remember that was the first time I was like, whoa, like concept album. There's like, you can create a whole world, you know? It's not just the music, it's the visuals and like an overarching message and like something that it was like creating a movie or a book or something that was not just like one song at a time. Like there was this woven theme.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, wow, I love that, you know?
Yeah.
But I got really, really into folk music for a while, into country music. And I do remember my mom being obsessed with the Goo Goo Dolls. And then that like drove my like nostalgic love for the Goo Goo Dolls. So like,
interesting. Okay.
yeah. So there's some like 90s pop rock reference in my music for sure.
Yeah. And you identify yourself as an indie pop artist, right?
In indie pop, we're working on some new stuff that's shifting into a space that I don't really know what it is yet.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do we have any more information or do you have any more information you can share about what is coming since you mentioned it?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm working on a second album, which I'm very, very excited about. It's felt like it's taken a while. Like the last record, it happened really fast. It felt like I think I just like had a handful of weeks in the studio, and I everything fell together. And I think after that project, a lot happened in my life. I moved to LA. A really big relationship ended. There's a lot of self-exploration, and I think for me, sometimes when everything's too fresh, it's hard for me to write. I think that I feel too chaotic and too close to it, and I write and it's out there, but I look back at the songs at that time when I was writing, and I was like, these are songs, you know, but I'm not in love with them or like the vision, because I don't think there was one at the time. And, you know, maybe one day they'll end up on an EP somewhere, and I put them out and I'm like, this was like from the vault. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I think I just needed the space to figure out who I was again and what I actually wanted to say. Yeah. And so that's been the newest process. And it's been really fun. I think, like I said before, a lot of my previous music is very introspective.
Yes.
And I think this project, I still have that. I still have a lot of that. But it comes from this space where I know who I am a little bit more, you know?
I'm so curious.
Yeah. So I think before it was like, who am I? Do I belong? Can I do this? Am I anything, you know? And now it's this space where it's like, I know who I am better than I ever have. I know what I want to say, and I'm excited to say it. So,
ooh,
yeah.
I love that. I'm excited. I can't wait for it to come out. So do we have a release? I keep saying we.
Do we have
a release date?
Not yet, but Dream Girl was the first single on the new project. So
okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to be releasing some singles for a little while, and I'm thinking early next year. So.
Okay. Everybody, she has a single out right now called Dream Girl, and you need to go check it out. It's great. That's awesome. I know that I was listening to July just really resonates with me. And I know it's like one of your top downloaded songs. Yeah. But it feels like it's such a time that you were kind of trying to figure out, you know, what was going on. Absolutely. And questioning, you know, some of the transition that was happening. I went through a career, like a layoff in July. And so I was just listening to your song and thinking, gosh, this is like so pivotal. And like your lyric about I'm going to be better next July. Yeah. I'm just looking forward to seeing like where that's going to be. Do you remember where you were when you wrote that song?
I remember that. So I've been working with the same producer for quite a while back in Canada. And this was like the very beginning of our journey. We're in his basement at his mom's house, because that's where he was like making music out of at the time.
Love it.
And it was winter, and was it winter? I'm questioning that part now, because I'm like, I wrote it about July. I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter. No, but I remember writing that whole entire like first verse, right, kind of start to finish. Like that was one of those moments where like it felt like it shot from the sky into my brain. I had this melody, and I just started writing, and I was like, wait, I feel like this is something. And I think it was one of those moments where I was feeling so strongly about something, but I couldn't find the words for it yet. And when it happened, I was like, it just felt very conversational and very hopeful, and very like, this is how I'm feeling, and this is what I want to say in this moment. It's funny though, because the song is hopeful, and the song's questioning, and it's like I want to be better by next July, and like I'm staying up looking for signs and all this, right? But the day before I released it, I remember this. I called my mom, And there'd been so many versions of this song. Like we had produced it, reproduced it, just trying to get the production right. Because I really loved the writing, but we were still trying to figure out sonically like what I wanted to sound like, right? Mm-hmm. So I'd heard so many versions that I feel like the magic of the song was lost to me, that magic that I felt when I created it. So I remember calling my mom like the day before it was coming out, and I was like, is this anything? Is this song anything? Like, am I being like, is this crazy? Like, I just feel like so weird and like uncomfortable about releasing it now, She's like, well, two things. One, it's coming out. It's coming out tomorrow. You can't do anything about that. Two, like, you believed in it at one point. You really believed in it at one point. Good advice. She was like, and you need to trust your instincts on this. And I was like, right, okay. And then I woke up the next morning, and this was like kind of the snowball that started like everything with my career, which is so wild. So I woke up and my producer called me. He's like, hey, you're on the cover of Indie Pop and Chill, like a Spotify playlist. I was like, what? And then the playlist started rolling in, and messages from artists that I really liked started coming in. And they're like, I heard the song July, like I love this song, And it was like one of those moments where I was like, wait a second, like, okay, this was me wanting so badly to be a part of this community and to be able to do this and pushing myself so outside my comfort zone and being honest, being like so vulnerable. Yeah. And that's nerve-wracking.
Right.
And other people relating to it. And I think that was that first time where I was like, oh, I can do this. Like I can speak my mind, and it can help other people and relate to other people and connect and like just make the world feel smaller. And so
I'm so glad that you shared that, because I think people often see artists or people who make it and they don't see the behind the scene of like those raw moments when you're just questioning everything and you're like, is this anything? Like I'm literally like putting my whole heart and soul out there for people to witness. And I appreciate that you shared that. And then that was actually such a turning point for you.
It was. Yeah.
And I think that that's what speaks to people. I like that your sound can be like, it's all the things. And I love that too. But it's kind of this, like, yes, it's happy, but it's like got a bittersweet element to it. There's an introspective element. And that's my favorite.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. I love that you love that. I think that was definitely a goal with my music in the journey. I love something that sounds hopeful, but I'm talking about something that's maybe like a little more challenging.
Yeah.
Because it gives this like really nice balance.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I feel like you're so wise. Like I was just sitting here. I mean, you're like an old soul, I think, in so many ways, just because you're real. I feel like you look inside a lot. Like I feel like you're on a very
I do, unfortunately, yeah.
But I think it's good, and in this sense of, Taylor is kind of this influence for you.
Yeah.
And really, for so many younger women, the women of the next generation, they look up to her in a lot of different ways. What do you hope that your legacy is for women who are looking up to you right now?
Wow. Big question. I can only speak to what I'm chasing right now and what I'm going after right now. And I think I'm really trying to follow my own gut, follow my heart. I think anytime I have done that in life, in my career, in relationships and friendships, it's led to the most wonderful things in life, And I think that through my career, I just want to be an example of like, you can do it. Whatever it is, whatever you're feeling, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It's like, it's follow it, chase it, go for it, because like that's where pure joy lives, and also like creativity is so important. I think that so many of us don't have an outlet, or we lose that outlet. And I think for me, it's turned into music, but I think that women, like, we feel things really deeply, and we think about things, and we need to have conversations about things, and we experience like connection. We need that connection with other people, Yeah. And so I think that chasing some sort of creative outlet and creating community is so important. So I think with my career, like I love this community that I've been building. It's really open and like explorational and honest and vulnerable, and
Yeah, I'm so glad that you are leading in that way. And I hope that you continue to do so.
Yeah.
You know, even though it's scary, even though sometimes you feel like, oh my gosh, what am I doing with this song?
Yeah.
I hope you continue to put it out there, because I think it's really important that, especially like I said, the next generation of women need to see that. And this generation too. I think we need proof of what's possible for ourselves.
I think
you're an example of that.
Oh my gosh, that's so sweet of you to say. Thank you.
What, you know, now that you're here, a year or two ago, what would you want to say to that version of Laur Elle?
Oh my goodness. A lot. A lot of different things. That it doesn't work out the way that you think that it's going to.
Yeah.
But it somehow is even better. Yeah.
That's so good. I feel like we mic drop, like, end the podcast right there. I don't know. I love that. I think that's such a good reminder for people, and for me, honestly, like as I'm in a journey right now too, where I'm like, okay, I know, like you know, when you feel in your gut, like this is going to be good, and I can just tell that there's good things coming.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the next move is.
No.
And I don't have a perfect plan of like, do A, B, C, and then you'll get there.
Not having a plan. It's so difficult. I completely relate to that. I've struggled with that so much with like this profession, especially. Like there's no plan. Like, it's literally different for every single person. Everyone's journey is different.
Yeah.
You can try and like put your heart into one direction and like and then that's not it. You know, it's just it's really, like you said, trusting your intuition, trusting your gut, and being like, all right, I want this thing. Let me try everything I can to get there. What feels good, you know, what feels like me, and like following those. Because I feel like that's where you find your people, you find your voice, you find your direction.
Have you ever wanted to just throw in the towel, like move to Tahiti?
Many
just
times.
Like, I'm done.
So many times. Oh my goodness. The amount of times that my friends have been like, have heard me say that I don't know if I can do this. I'm so lucky that I do have like a really wonderful support system. But no, I've almost quit so many times, honestly. And like, I'm pretty sure even like a couple weeks ago, I was like, am I making anything? Am I doing anything? I think what's so interesting is with music, when I'm on the road and I'm on tour, I'm meeting real people.
Yeah.
And I am having this like real one-on-one, like, oh, people hear my music, you know, and I'm impacting people and I'm doing something, you know. But I think with social media and like I'm working like a handful of other jobs still, just like I'm doing a lot, you know. And I think that it's just you lose perspective sometimes of like, is anything working?
Yeah. Do you think that's part of the creative process, though, that you have to almost go through that?
I think
like,
you do.
You kind of ride, especially like entrepreneurs, creatives. I feel like there's this roller coaster that happens. Do you feel like that's also part of?
It's absolutely part of it. It's absolutely part of it. I think it makes I was going to say when you finally get there, but like there's no getting there, you know? But I think that it's part of the process. I think that you appreciate the wins so much more.
Mm-hmm.
I think it gives you like the heart and the oomph to like keep going. Because like when you go through something like that and then all of a sudden you break through, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
It gives you that confidence within yourself and that validation. And I just think it really is part of the process for sure. And I think with anything, I truly believe that anyone can get to wherever they want. It's just, it's a game of sticking it out the longest, you know? I think that there's been so many times in my career where I was like, I don't know if I can do this, you know? And 2 more weeks happen, you know? And something happens and I was like, wow, you know? And I think it's just like the trusting yourself, trusting the process, and like having that support group to like get you through those lows. Because if I wouldn't have landed that next tour, you know, I wouldn't have known that someone heard a song that meant so much to them that I hadn't even written yet, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's what I was going to say is like, what do you do in those moments when you don't think you can go on and you're just done? Like, do you have people you reach out to? Do you have self-care? Like, what is the thing that Laur Elle does when she's at her lowest?
That's a really good question. I think it's a little different every time. I run. I'm a really bad runner. I'm going to go on camera and say that. I can't run very far. I run for my mental health.
Hey, that's great. I love that.
No, it's that. Sometimes it's taking a break. Sometimes it's being like, I feel this way right now and I have so many emotions and like there's a lot going on in my life, and like when I can do it, I'll take that break, you know? Yeah. I'll lay in my bed and put a show on and just like rot and like wake up the next day and be like, okay, I'm ready, you know, to look at things differently or start taking things on. Sometimes it's phone calls with friends. Sometimes it's just crying about it, you know, and letting myself like feel sorry for myself for a second to then look back and be like, what were you doing there, you know? And like laugh about it later. Sometimes it's writing. It's truly always different. And I think the more that's happened, the more resources that I have, you know, to dig myself out of the hole. Like the more like tools I have to be like, all right, what do we need this time? And I think every time you get a little closer with yourself too, when you dig yourself out of that hole.
Yeah. Gosh, I like that. I like what you just said there, because we do forget that.
Yeah.
When you're in the hole, you're like beating yourself up. Why am I like this? What's going on?
Yeah.
Who am I?
Who am I?
Yeah.
I don't know at all.
And then to figure out like, oh gosh, every time I get through something like this, it's actually making me just a little bit better.
Yeah.
And so I love that you shared that. Is there somebody that you've had some really awesome collaborations, by the way,
yeah.
musically? Different direction. But is there somebody that you would just love to collaborate with? Like, who's a dream collaboration for you from a music perspective?
Oh my goodness. So many artists.
You could pluck one out of the universe.
You know what? Gracie Abrams.
Yeah.
Incredible lyricist. Her and her like co-writing partner / best friend, pretty much, Aubrey. My understanding is they write everything together. I would love to be in a session with them. I would love to be in a session, see how they work, just like be a fly on the wall. I think that she has this perfect way of writing conversational lyrics so to make them feel effortless and make them flow and feel real. And also like I love how she can put like bitterness in a song, you know?
Yeah.
Like towards other people and towards herself, and it doesn't feel like it feels just right.
Yeah.
You know? So I think
mean.
she'd be a really cool person to collaborate, to work with.
I can hear some of her. Is there some influence there?
Maybe. I think there's a lot of Taylor influence in Gracie. So maybe that's
Oh, really?
It's coming from the source.
Okay.
You know, we're all of us indie pop girlies are really just like branched off Taylor Swift fans from like growing up.
Hey, whatever works for the creative, right? It doesn't matter where it comes from ultimately. Yeah, I love that. I mean, I just feel like there's probably so many different dreams that you have, especially as a creative.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is there a song that you feel like maybe that wasn't your top hit, but that you personally feel really close to for some reason?
Okay, so Coach's Daughter is definitely one. I think that one day that song is going to get the recognition that I think that it deserves. I just think it hasn't found its people yet.
Yeah.
You know? And then probably August as well, which I didn't even mean to call it August. I released July, and then I
say your songs are about summer.
Yeah, my songs. I have month songs, and I really was thinking about continuing the bit. You know, just like with every record, releasing a month song. Yeah, definitely. So August was. I would say it's probably one of my most raw and honest songs. I was going through a lot of depression for a while, and I really, really, really struggled. And I think when I was on the other side of that, I was looking back at that version of myself, and I didn't feel like her anymore, but I didn't know who I was and who I wanted to be. So it was like mourning the loss of that version of myself, and trying to create and to figure out who I wanted to be. Yeah.
I think that's really beautiful that you were able to write a song through a moment like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can be really hard to talk about.
Yeah.
Are there any songs that haven't made it out there yet that, you know, you've kind of been holding close to your chest that are hard to talk about, that are maybe challenging to release?
Definitely. I'll always have those.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll always have those. And I think that They might come out eventually. They might exist on potentially like a different project in the future. Because I do think that they're important, and there is definitely something worth saying. I think that, maybe one day they'll make it out there, or maybe I'll play it live randomly, and see how it feels.
See the reaction. Yeah, I mean, it's such a vulnerable thing to share that kind of experience with the rest of the world, basically, to put it on display and say, okay, here it is. Do you ever feel like you're judged? Like, has that ever been hard to deal with? I don't know, with fans or what you might have to deal with from social media, but have you ever felt like judgment or just dealing with some of the harsh things that the world can give you?
I definitely do. What's really interesting is when it comes to my music, I've never felt judged, or I would say like when I released July, that was the first time I felt nervous. That was the first time I like was emotionally really putting myself out there, and I felt nervous. And then after that happened, I was like, I did it. I kind of just think that I realized that I had things to say, and it felt so natural to say them. So when it came to my music, I've never felt worried, I guess, since then, or judged, or wondering what people are going to think about like my thoughts or anything like that. But I do when it comes to social media. So like it feels like music feels like this controlled space almost, where it's like I spend hours and hours and hours, and I take all these thoughts and emotions and I package them in this way where I'm like, it's art now,
Yeah.
And I can release it out into the world, and I'm free of it. I've let it go emotionally, hopefully. But when it comes to putting myself out there on social media, that feels so much more me. And that's when I felt nervous about perception or being judged. And I've been struggling. That's the most recent struggle, I would say, when it comes to this industry.
I was not expecting you to say that.
Really?
Because music, again, just feels like, everyone gets to hear your lyrics, and it's such a vulnerable display of who you really are. And so I wasn't expecting that social media would be a challenge, but
it is.
I was going to say we need to see more of Laur Elle. So
oh my gosh.
I'm glad you kind of brought that up, because
I know. I'm trying. It's so interesting because I know who I am in my music. I know who I am when I'm around people. When it comes to like showing up and existing in video form on the internet, that's when I'm like, what do I want to say? What do I want to contribute? How do I want to present myself to the world? And that's like a whole different dynamic, I think.
Very true. I wonder what you would say to, other women, whether they're stepping into their leadership and they feel vulnerable, or, like, oh gosh, who am I to do this? The sabotage, comes in, or other women who are creatives or writing, or they just want to put something out into the world, but same thing, they're a little bit afraid of that judgment. Like, what would your advice be to them right now?
The world deserves to hear it. I would say that if you feel called to it, that to put it out because you're feeling called to it for a reason, and that the world needs more vulnerability and honesty.
Yeah. Gosh, that's so deep. I love that the world needs to hear it.
Yeah.
I think so, right? Because if it's there for a reason.
It's there for a reason. I think too, like, with social media, we're more connected than ever, but we're all more, like, especially in this city since I've been here, like, I felt more isolated than I ever have before, too. And I think that we're constantly searching for connection and searching for something that's real. And I think a lot of that can be found through music. And I think that's why I struggle with like short form social media content a little bit, because it feels fleeting. But I do think that it allows access to a deeper connection, right? Someone finds me, you find me on social media, right? You find me on TikTok.
I say you don't like social, but I found you on social media.
And it leads to like a real life connection. So I use it as like a platform to say the thing that I want to say in the way that I want to say it, right? But I think that like there's fear in anything that's uncertain or unknown. And I think that breaking through fear and pushing through fear, there's no better feeling. You build trust with yourself. And I think that leads to a happier life, more opportunity, just just connection. So it's definitely scary being vulnerable and putting yourself out there in any way that feels foreign initially, you know? Yeah. But I think, like I said, if you're being called to it, like, you got to trust that.
Yeah.
You're being called to it for a reason.
I think it's just, especially as women at times, I think it can be tricky in certain situations where you do want to be heard or you do want your voice to stand out.
Yeah.
And just taking that first step or
the
even
first
the next.
Steps,
yeah.
The first step is absolutely the hardest. The first step with anything. Oh my goodness. Learning a new skill, learning to cook, going to the gym. It's always, the anticipation is so much scarier than the actual action. Yeah. I find that so much in life. Like, bringing a package to drop off somewhere, like, you know what I mean? Like, something so simple sometimes you're like, I don't want to do it. There's this like little like anxious like gremlin in your head. And I think that when you actually do something, you're like, wait a second, that was so silly. That was so easy, right? Yeah. I think that I take that energy into like pushing through fear, you know? I think that anything that I've done, the fear and the anticipation of how it's going to go is so much bigger than like when you actually do it.
Yeah.
You do it and you're like, oh, I killed that, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's just knowing that and going for it.
Yeah.
And going for it.
Definitely. Doing it scared and doing it messy anyway.
Doing it scared, doing it messy anyway. Like, I think there's something so beautiful about being messy throughout the process.
Okay, I have a question about that.
Okay.
Have you ever messed up in one of your performances or done something where you're like, oh gosh, that was cringy?
Yeah, so many times. I'm a human girl, you know? Like, so many times. I don't know if I should even say this, but like, I played on a stage in front of 11,000 people last year, and I was not ready for that performance. Like, the band ended up switching last minute. Someone was supposed to help me build the set, and they didn't. I learned how to do it myself, which looking back is crazy. I felt so not confident and so not ready and so fearful. And I did it and I'm proud. You know what I mean? Those 11,000 people, whatever they think of me, it's okay.
Good for you. That's huge.
I remember the whole entire time on that stage just being like, I'm fumbling this so hard.
And you could feel that?
I could feel
the entire time?
I could feel the entire time.
Gosh.
And it was like this internal dialogue of like, act normal, Laurel. Play this chord. Everything is fine. Like, don't get in your own way. Don't get in your head, you know? But I really, looking back, it was not as messed up as like it felt in my body. But that was like one of those moments where I was just like, I was not at peak performance. I was not doing my best out there. I think, you know, what's so funny about that situation too is like, because it was messy and because I was scared and because I did that, I left that being like, I'm never going to feel that way again. I never want to feel that way again. So it kicked my butt. You know what I mean? I was like, how do I not experience that feeling or emotion again? And I think it just like, it drove me into this, all right, I'm going to have the best live show. How do I do that? I'm going to get better at guitar. I'm going to practice my vocals. I'm going to run and sing. I'm going to like do all these things, you know? So I think sometimes like we have to have those like really messy, like what the actual heck just happened moments to like reorient us and drive us.
Right.
So I think it's important. They suck.
I'm really glad that you shared. I don't want to like, you know, capitalize on your sucky moment, but I think it's just important for people to hear because sometimes I think we listen to podcasts about people who have already achieved the thing. And it's like, well, that sounds nice that you already are at the top. But like
I love this for you so much. But I'm like literally in the trenches right now. So like.
Right. So I just want to hear about like the actual reality of some of these situations. Yeah. And of course, like I see some of your reels and you're on stage and there is no way I would have ever thought that you had a messy moment up there,
so
or that you were
crazy.
questioning anything, right? Like, you look like you're completely crushing it. There's this huge audience, and like, good for her. She's just in her element. But, you know, you felt it. And to your point, those are the moments that make you often. And that's where you're like, okay, you got two choices. I'm either throwing in the towel and quitting, or I'm going to figure out a way to never feel like this again.
Never. No. Yeah.
I had some tech issues with some interviews I did once, and I have now gotten all the backups and like, how can I make sure that I don't ever have these tech problems?
Yeah, exactly. It's part of the process. Unfortunately, we gotta fumble our way up there sometimes.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. What is one of the other side of that, what's like a really memorable moment for you? And it might not even be like when you're on stage, but was there a time where you're just like, gosh, that just like spoke to my heart in such a way?
There's so many moments, so many small moments, I think, that have led to something bigger. So I think it's anyone sending me a message about my song, about how it's like what it's meant to them, you know? I think that some random man at Spotify putting me on a Spotify playlist when I released a song that I was scared about releasing was one of those moments. I think people taking chances on me, and believing in me when they didn't need to, you know? The very first tour that I ever went on, I opened for a band called Bill Murray, and such a, like, on paper, I tell people that and they're like, what, how, you know? But he took a chance on me. This was a like little version of me that like I hadn't really played stages before, you know? And I was playing in front of like 500 to 700 people. Oh my
gosh. That's really big for not
I know.
on stages.
Oh, I know. I feel like that was another one of those moments where I was like shaking and holding my guitar, just being like, hi, everybody. Like, but that was one of those moments too, you know? I was like, someone else is seeing something in me that like I want to believe in, you know? And I want to take a chance on, and I don't want to let someone down, and I don't want to let myself down, you know? Because like I decided I was going to do this, and so I'm going to do this. And so I think that it's just been a culmination of like a lot of small moments that have led to like something bigger.
Yeah. That's so great that you shared that. I feel like I've been reflecting on that too, that sometimes the meaning in life, it's like not what we think it is. It's in those small moments, like you just said, in the really simple things that somebody shares something with you that means something and takes a chance, and you're like, gosh, thank you for believing in me. So I knew there'd be some of those for you for sure.
Definitely. And I think what's interesting is like life moves on, and we forget those sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
Like we get swept up in the day-to-day and the like what ifs, and like we're busy, and like you kind of forget those small moments. So I think that's why it's so important to have like these kind of conversations and have people in your corner, because sometimes you need a reminder of that. Sometimes you need to talk about it and be like, oh yeah, right, I am doing something.
Yeah.
And people believe in me, and I believe in myself, you know? So
do you have like what's the best advice maybe that somebody's ever given you along this journey? I'm sure you've had people speaking into your ear, giving you all their opinions, giving you all their thoughts, but have you ever had something just really land with you that carried you through?
That's such a good question. I'm like thinking about my gymnastics coaches, like even in the beginning. And it's interesting. I don't think that like specific words are coming to me, but I think with my gymnastics career, it was like, I was pushing through a lot of fear. And so I think I got good as a kid doing something scared, you know? And so I think that I've just taken that mentality into a career where sometimes I'm like, this feels insane. Why did I go from like the most like masochistic sport to like, you know what I mean? To like pursuing this creative career where, who knows, you know? But I think it was just like, there's this like do it or don't do it mentality with it. You know, you either give it 100%, you go for it, or like, why are you doing it? You know? And so I find myself channeling that a lot recently, because I think that I've definitely had a lot of those moments where I've been like, can I do this? You know? And I think it's just been like, well, do it or don't, you know? And it's almost like this little bit of tough love to myself, you know? It's like, no one's forcing me to do this. This was a choice, you know? So I think that, and then on the opposite end of it, because like that's the tough love side, you know? I think there's the part of me that, like, if you're not having fun doing it, why are you doing it? You know? I think that my mom has said that to me multiple times, and I think even like my manager, we've had like a really good conversation about that before. I think it was just like, hey, Laurel, this is supposed to be fun. You know, this is supposed to, we chose this, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's do it or don't do it. And I think it's like, and then find the joy in it. Find the joy in the whole entire process.
Yeah.
You know? Because even the hard parts, looking back, even the parts where I was like, oh, no way. Like, they're a hilarious story, or it led to an incredible memory, or I just, yeah.
Are you
I'm so
having
grateful
fun
for it.
now?
I am. I am having a lot of fun.
Good.
I think that's something that very recently I've been writing I would say my best music, like, in a while, because I'm enjoying the process again. I fell in love with making music. I fell in love with, like, the collaborators that I'm working with, and it's just become this, like, really, really fun process of, like, what else can we do? What else can we say? What's different? Like, thinking a lot about the live show. I may or may not have just booked another tour that I am really excited about that hasn't been announced yet. But
You better be playing here in California. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Of course. And I just, I've really, it's interesting. Like, it sounds like I'm like, everything's rainbows. And a week ago I was crashing out, you know, it's just like, that's part of the process. But I will say that, like, the moments that I'm having right now in the studio and with friends and living in this city, you know, are making everything worth it, for sure. So
I love that. There's no better feeling than when you're collaborating. You can just feel that energy. So
you leave on a high.
I love that.
It's so funny. My roommate sometimes, like, I'll come home from a session and I'll have the zoomies. I'm like so excited about a song that I wrote, and I'm like, I have to go run.
Really,
like, I just, like, I have to. And like, that's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
That's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, and it's not even like you're performing with, 50,000 people.
No,
you're collaborating. You're making magic.
I just made a thing that didn't exist before, and now it exists. Like, that's so cool.
I love that. I could talk to you all day long, but our time is coming to an end.
Okay.
And so on this podcast, we have a tradition where I ask the guests that I'm interviewing to leave, like, a quote or a reflection for the next guest, not knowing who it is.
Okay.
So I'd like to share what was left for you.
Okay.
And then give you the opportunity to do the same.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm nervous. I'm excited for this quote, though.
It's really not
wisdom.
It doesn't have to be anything, like,
profound.
Crazy. Yeah. It just is anything that's coming to you that you feel like sharing. But first, I will share this. So the last guest said, that's a good quote for you, I feel like.
Okay.
Your words are powerful, and your words bring life. It's not just what you're saying, but it's in the words that are in your mind, how you're speaking to yourself, and how you're thinking. Your words have power, and how are you using them?
Oh my gosh.
So, this is such a great tradition, because not only do I get the benefit of, like, hearing these quotes, but I always feel like they are meant for the next person.
I feel like that just hit me in the face right now. Like, what? Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. Yeah. How do I follow that up? Eat your Wheaties. I don't know.
Eat your Wheaties. Okay, no, I know you are a deep thinker. Listen.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sure there's something there.
I'm going to say, I think kind of just like the theme of a lot of what we've been talking about. It's like to trust your gut and to trust your intuition. I think that it's so powerful and it's so strong. And I think us as women are more connected to it than ever, you know? Yeah. And I think we know when something's right. We know when something's not right. And it's just sitting with it and listening to it and asking yourself those questions and feeling what comes out of that, you know, and trusting that and making those decisions for yourself, because
Yeah. Oh, that is so good. And, I love not only, yes, trust your gut, but what you just said about sitting with it, because so often I don't feel like we give that intuition a voice. And in order to give it a voice, we have to give it some space.
We definitely do. Yeah. I think sometimes too, like it can read as anxiety, if we're not sitting with it. So I think we gotta sit there and grow to understand it. Learn what voice is like the gremlin in your mind, and like what is like that intuition.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
This has been such a great conversation.
This is wonderful.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I hope that you get to come back again another time, or just for those listening, that we're going to go check out your music, and we're going to stay tuned for your upcoming album whenever the release comes out. But in the meantime, we're going to enjoy your singles. And so where can people find you? What's the best place to reach you?
Okay, so I am on all streaming platforms as Laur Elle. So you can find me on like Apple Music and Spotify and iTunes and like wherever you listen to music. And then you can find me on social media. I am Laur.Elle.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my gosh.
Of course. This is really great.
I feel like I've known you for so long. Like,
your questions were so good.
Oh,
like they were like really, really good questions. And also like you really made me think. And I like I don't think I've been challenged in that way in a little while. So like that was so wonderful. I'm like,
thank you for tuning into the show today. And before you go, I just have one quick favor to ask of you. There is a really simple way that you can help support me and help support this show, and that is to hit that follow button on whatever app you're listening to the show on. I'm trying really hard to level up the content and deliver unique value and amazing guests, and just hitting that follow button is the magic that will help continue to empower that. And remember that the world deserves to hear your voice and your stories, and you deserve a place at the top.